Alright guys, so we have some stuff to chit chat about. I wanted to bring y'all somewhere where I thought it was beautiful. As soon as I pull up into the parking lot, I had to take a phone call. Kind of flipped my day upside down, to be honest. We can talk about that later when I get out of the rain. But I'm gonna have to move to another place. It started just pouring rain. I mean, it's not too bad, but obviously I don't want to be out in the rain for nothing. I love this area. I think I might get sit under this tree. Okay, I'm under a tree, but I'm still getting a little wet, so I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stay out here. But I just kind of wanted to cover some things. So one is I'm still in Arkansas. I've been here since Saturday, and today is Tuesday. So I want to go through and I want to kind of talk about that, and I want to answer some questions that are very popular questions about RV life. And so I'm going to go ahead and find another location and get out of the rain, and we will come back to all that stuff in a few minutes. Okay, I've moved locations, and now I'm sitting underneath the pavilion at the park, which is on the other side of that body of water that we just left. I wished I could have sat there, and as soon as I arrived over here, which was like maybe a 2-minute drive, the rain quit again. But as soon as I moved back over there, we all know the rain is going to start again. Okay, so Robert and I are both from Arkansas. We do travel full-time for his career. We've kind of talked about that in some other videos. I also covered my traveling to Arkansas with you guys. If y'all haven't seen that, please go check it out. I gave y'all some safety tips for women traveling alone. I also included some apps that I use, just different ways that I like to save money. So if you haven't caught that video, please go back and look at it. Alright guys, I've tried a few different times to make this video and I keep getting interrupted, and so far it has been important interruptions that I could not avoid. So take 29. Okay, so outside of the rain, it's a beautiful day here. I'm in a park, so there's lots of people around. I've had people I want to say interrupting me, but like I was more in their way, if that makes sense. So I moved locations. Hopefully I'm off to where I won't get any more interruptions outside of if my phone rings. I am expecting an important phone call, so hopefully that holds off a little longer. So I'm in Arkansas. Today is Tuesday. I've been here since Saturday. I travel back and forth every 3 months. This is our homestay, also known as our legal residence, also known as a domicile. So Robert and I both carry an Arkansas ID. Whenever we travel, we don't have like a primary residence or anything since we're in an RV, so it's not like we can go, you know, get an ID or anything in those other states. We can't produce the appropriate documentation to prove that, you know, we are living in that state. Plus it would be a lot of hassle. So what I'm doing now is a hassle, but it's a better option. So I am being treated by a pain specialist, and with that there's controlled medications, and I have not found a way to get those transferred or prescribed across state lines. I know with other medications there's ways. I do that with simpler medications, but when it comes to a controlled substance, I personally have not found a way. This is a very popular topic that we see on the different forums that we follow. People always ask about medications and how we do that. So with my normal medications, I use Walgreens. If you use like Walgreens, CVS, you know, pharmacies that are in multiple states, you can usually have those transferred. I was told that you can only transfer a prescription across state lines one time. So if my doctor prescribes a prescription and they send it here locally and then I have it transferred to where I am, I cannot have it transferred again if I move locations. However, my doctor has been very good. She just calls it into whatever pharmacy I need. But again, that's for my regular medications, not the controlled medications. So when it comes to controlled medications, like I said, I have not found a way to bypass any of this. I've checked with like the mail order things where you get it shipped to your door. That's not an option. I have called around, being in different states, I've called around and been like, hey, I live in Arkansas, I travel full time. Can y'all see me as long as I'm not seeing my Arkansas doctor? Like, can my Arkansas doctor write you a letter or something like that? No. So what happens is you will end up getting treated like you're just drug seeking and you'll get blacklisted. So that's not an option. I've called my insurance provider and they're telling me that there's no options. I've talked to my primary doctor, I've talked to my pain specialist, and the best I can figure out, there just are no options. And since this is a popular question and a popular need, if you guys are watching this and you know a workaround, like a legal workaround, I would really like to know. So while we're on the topic of a domicile or a legal resident, I knocked off my hat. I'm fighting wind in my hair. So that is another popular question we see on all the forums. An interesting thing is Robert and I do not share the same legal address, and I will tell you all about that. So prior to us getting married, I had a home that I was already purchasing, and that was my address. And then Robert was already involved in his career where he was mostly on the road traveling. And so when he was home, he had an RV pad set up on the backside of his parents' property. And so his parents' address was his legal address. And we have been traveling together since we've been married. That was in 2023. I say we're still newlyweds. But because Robert never lived in, my home, and he has no documentation showing that, and I never lived with him on his parents' property, and I have no documentation to show that, neither one of us were ever able to switch our IDs over. And so when we go, like, for example, when we went to purchase our new RV and they want our legal addresses, we kind of got like looks, I guess you want to say, when he gave one address and I gave another. And so we always have to explain that, and it's just funny to me. Now, because I still own the home here in Arkansas and Robert still has an RV pad at his parents' property, we are able to legally keep those as our legal addresses. So we're not breaking any rules. But then the question comes up of, well, how do you receive mail? So there are many, many different ways. For a long time, we were using P.O. boxes, and every P.O. box is different. So some places would let us just sign up and pay, and some places wanted us to have an address there and proof of an address there. So, in New Mexico, we ran into that issue of, unless we could prove that we lived in New Mexico, we could not get a P.O. box. And so that was weird to me. There's been several places that will just allow us to get a P.O. box. But then the problem is they want to charge you for a whole year. And sometimes we are not in a place, a lot of times we are not in a place for an entire year. So what we have found is they do not refund that money. So you pay a year, they keep your money, and then they rent the box out to somebody else. So we have found a website. It's called travelingmailbox.com. You do pay, I think it's an annual fee. You have options. So I think there was a monthly option and an annual option, but you do save some money if you go for the annual. We did that. There's also different packages. So What they do is they open or they receive your mail on your behalf. You get a PMB box, and they will list it, so they'll scan the envelope and it pops up in your email letting you know you've got new mail. And then you go through and you tell them if you want them to open that mail or not. They only open the mail if you ask them to, and then they will scan the contents, and then that again will show up in your digital mailbox. Then if I don't need that item, for example, if it's just a document, I can download it. If it was junk mail, obviously they can discard it, they shred it. And then if it's something that I need in my possession, then I pay another fee and I have it forwarded to wherever my location is. So that is how we have chosen to receive mail. I like it. I think there's probably some cheaper options out there. Hair problems. The one thing that I have found that can be kind of an issue is some credit cards will not send a new credit card to that account. It registers that it's a PMB box, which stands for a private mailbox. But I don't know why they won't send it to that. But most of our credit card companies, they have been willing to work around it. So now on documents like, let's say bank accounts, insurance, things like that, it's simple. I just have my home address listed as a primary residence, and then I have them do a separate mailing address. And I have not ran into any issues with that. Actually, my property taxes here, they do the same way. And they did call me recently for clarification on why they have two separate addresses, and they were wondering if I was actually living out of state. When I took time to explain my situation, they were like, oh, okay, that's neat, and it was no big deal either. So Arkansas, some of the stuff is cheaper here than other states that we've been in. So Virginia is definitely more costly. Recently, my car needed to go to the shop, and I had it checked out there in Virginia, and they wanted $200 and something an hour, plus the parts were more expensive. And I'm already acquainted with the dealership here. They're a lot cheaper, so I saved a lot of money. Even after you add in the cost of me traveling, I think I still saved money. So whenever I do come to Arkansas, I like to capitalize and see what else I can accomplish here. So I think ahead. Do I need to go see my doctor? Do I need to go update anything at my bank? Anything and everything that I can think of, I try to accomplish it while I'm in Arkansas, just to make my life a little bit easier. Now back to that car appointment. I had set my appointment earlier on this month. My husband called them last week to verify that the parts had been pre-ordered, which they said, yes, everything is set for this Thursday. That's 2 days away. I have already figured out like a ride and everything else, all the details. And right when I started making this very first video, my phone rang, and it was them letting me know that some of the parts are on back order. Okay, well, what does that mean for me, sir? They said, we don't know exactly. I hope this wasn't a wasted trip. It could mean a few days. It could mean a few weeks. It could mean longer. So I just got off the phone with my husband, telling him what's going on. I am expecting a second call back from the Toyota dealership, and we will find out what that means for me. Like, am I getting my car fixed? Am I not? Am I stuck in Arkansas for a while, or am I not? I don't know. Okay, so I've answered two main questions that people have for RVers. One was about medication, how you receive those when you're over the road. The other one was about mail and how you receive those when you were over the road. So please, guys, let me know in the comments if there's any other information that you would find valuable. And if it's something that Robert and I can teach you about, we certainly will. Until then, y'all have a great day.
and drifters, subscribe and drift.